In this short video, we'll go over how to refurbish and waterproof your garden tool handles. Give you a quick bit of a presentation with some background information and some things you need to research before you get started, and then a step-by-step video. So, why refurbish and waterproof your handles? If you make the investment in a nice set of gardening tools with wooden handles, whether they're long tool handles or short tool handles, if you take care of them, they'll last you a very long time. The garden is a very hostile place for wood. And if you leave things out, if you get them wet, if you leave them in the sun or cold, that has an impact and will degrade the handles over time and really cause you some problems. So you want to do it for durability, safety. Obviously, if you leave the grips and they start to decay, you can get splinters, you can crack them. They can fail while you're maybe trying to put some heavy force on one of the handles, which can cause an injury as well. So it's pretty important. Obviously, you want your tools to look nice. And then lastly, there's this move towards wood handle and stainless steel tools. Away from the plastic handles and rubber and those types of things that just aren't healthy for the environment, and in many cases can break down or pollute your soil, which is not a good thing. So before you get started, there's two types of oil that are typically used to refurbish handles. The first is tung oil and the second is boiled linseed oil, and we'll go over the different choices, and you can use either one, but there's pros and cons to both. So if you look at tung oil, it's got great durability once you apply it. You typically have to apply multiple coats. It enhances the grain. Over time, minimal maintenance is required. It's non-toxic, and then one of the benefits, it's resistant to mold. So if you leave something out in the garden for a long periods of time, mold won't grow on it, which can be bad for porous types of handles. From a cons perspective, it takes a long time to dry. It costs more, so if you go to buy it, it's harder to find, and typically it's more expensive. It requires multiple coats to do its job. Subsequent coats will make the resistance to moisture stronger. And then there's also potential allergic reactions. It's got a similarity to nut allergies and things like that. Boiled linseed oil is typically the choice and what most gardeners or craftsmen will use. It's a high penetrating oil. It's very flexible from a usage perspective. Traditional choice, like I said, most people are familiar with it or will use it. It's very cost effective. It's cheap. You can get it online or at your local hardware store for a few bucks, and then it's widely available pretty much any place you go into, whether it's Walmart or Ace Hardware or Home Depot. They're going to have it available. It does have some long drying time, so if you soak the handle, it's going to take a while to dry. It requires more frequent application than tung oil. It has less water resistance, and it has kind of a fishy, weird smell to it. So until it's dry. So if you get it on your hands or your clothes, you can definitely be annoyed by that smell. My wife is constantly, she knows when I've been working with boiled linseed oil. And then lastly, which I'll cover here in a bit, is the risk of spontaneous combustion. The way the chemicals work and the way it gets oxidized as you apply the coat to the wood, if it exists on rags and you put them in a location, the heat that they generate can be crazy and it can cause a fire, and we'll talk about that later. So it's a pretty simple process. Essentially, you need sandpaper. I prefer to use a sponge sanding block. That way it forms to the shape of the handle, makes the job a little bit easier. If you've got dirt and other stuff on the handle, you may want to take steel wool to it to kind of rub it off. Your choice of natural oil, I'm going to use boiled linseed oil for this, and then rags or shop tools, or shop towels. You can actually buy these online. You can go to Home Depot or Lowe's, and you can find them pretty much anywhere. They're Scott towels. They're just a little bit thicker, and they're kind of stretchy, so it makes them great for a disposable rag that you can use for these types of projects. And then optionally, if you want to paint, varnish, or stain your handles, make them look better, you want to customize them, you'd need that as well. So simple process, as I mentioned. The big focus is on the prep. You want to go ahead and clean and assess the handles. Clean them, look for any cracks, look for any gouges or splinters, and clean those off. You may have to use a wood filler. I recommend like a Bondo type filler. They have wood colored filler that you can get if you've got holes or chips in your handles and you want to make them stronger. The first step, you take it once you prep it, you sand it. Take off any previous finish. You want to get down to the bare wood. Step 2 is taking your rag or your towel, applying some of the oil, and then any finishing touches can be coordinated. If you want to do some stain or paint it, you may or may not use step 2 depending on what you want to do. So let's go ahead and jump into the video, and I'll show you a step by step. So go ahead and assemble your sanding block, your tool, and then your boiled linseed oil on a pair of gloves. And grab your sanding block or your sandpaper and start to take off the finish and the grime that's on your handle. Typically, if it's really dirty, you'll take a cloth and kind of wash it with some soap and just warm water, let it dry. And then I like these sanding blocks because, as you can see, you can kind of hold it and form it to the shape of the handle, and then take off the outer coat really, really simply. Whereas flat sandpaper might be a little more difficult depending on doing the end or how you're going to go ahead and sand it. So I like to grab it, just twist it with the tool end handle, take off that layer and make sure you get any varnish off there, any previous finish. Twist, get it done. And then once we have this done, we can go ahead and examine it, make sure there's no cracks or any type of issues or splinters. If there are, you can take those off and then use some type of wood filler to fill in what you need to fill in to make it a smooth surface and make sure there's no cracks that water can get into. I like to use gloves for the oil process. Linseed oil has a pretty nasty smell. It smells like fish in many cases, kind of a fishy smell. So I used to not use gloves, which probably wasn't a smart thing, but I'd walk in and my wife knew when I was working with linseed oil because of the smell. So gloves will help keep that away from your skin and your body and keep you from having to wash your hands 10 times to get it off. So crack open your linseed oil. I like to tip it and just apply a bit to the towel. Some folks will actually grab a tin and dunk the handles in. I don't like to do that. It takes too long to dry and it kind of wastes some of the oil. So I'll go ahead and start the finish process. Almost lost my oil there. We'll go ahead and apply it to the entire handle. Put some pretty good pressure so that you drive that oil down inside the handle. And I'll do 2 or 3 applications initially, let it dry, and then do another set of applications. Just to get it where I want it to be. This stuff, it's got a slow drying time, especially if you soak it pretty well. Make sure you get all the parts of the handle down near the collar there at the front, and then also the hole. If you have a brush, you can use it, or an old toothbrush. I just like to fill up the hole and kind of tip it over, roll it around a bit, and it'll soak into that handle space and keep that from cracking as well. So that's it. It's a pretty simple process. Just apply that, layer it a couple times. I like to, like I said, put some firm pressure on it. You can see the noticeable difference already on the handle, and you can let it dry, and then it's ready to take out to garden battle again. Here's a few tips for the best results. Focus on that prep work. Make sure that you sand it well and that you get any previous finish off. It'll give you a nice smooth finish for the future and be the best from a waterproofing perspective. You definitely want to work in a well-ventilated area. You're doing sanding. While you're doing sanding, you may want to wear a mask and then wear gloves to protect your hands from the oil, especially the linseed oil, or your hands will stink all day, and it's kind of hard to get the smell out. Use a soft lint-free cloth, some type of pure cotton cloth, or shop towels that won't leave fuzz and things like that on the handle. Avoid using any harsh chemicals or cleaners. Strippers are not advised. Remember, you're going to take this and leave it in the garden, so any chemicals that you have on the handle could leach into the soil, and they could also damage the wood, depending on the type of wood handles you have. Reapply the oil regularly, especially at the start of the season. If you live in a hostile environment like I do, Central California, where it gets 110 in the summer, pretty much your handles dry out pretty quickly. So you might want to, do it once a month or once every couple months. And then especially do it when you put your tools away for the winter. It's a great time. You can even do it in the heart of winter to kind of keep you focused and sane during the winter months. Just a quick warning, I mentioned this. From personal experience, I can tell you that boiled linseed oil will spontaneously ignite. It happens because of the oxidation of the chemicals from a rag and the amount of chemical that can end up on your rag or your shop towel. So you want to make sure that you do not leave these inside a garage or on a workbench table with the linseed oil still on there, because you could have a fire and a bit of a problem. When I first started redoing my handles, I had a bucket that was outside. I threw my rag in the bucket, turned around, and it was a warm summer day, and I started smelling smoke. I turned around and the whole bucket was on fire. So take it from experience, it will really happen. I like to throw it into a metal bucket that I have outside and then fill it with water, so that it doesn't have the chance of spontaneously combusting. And then I have a cover that I put on it when I'm done, and I keep that outside. So definitely make sure you want to clean your rags, lay them outside and let them dry out, and never leave them in a pile, because that heat will start to build within the pile and create a fire. So hopefully you found this useful. If you did, please like and subscribe for more tips on gardening and the home. And you can go to our website at thecelticfarm.com. Thank you.